David Allison is a best-selling author, international speaker, and advisor to global organizations working in various sectors of the economy. He's a leading advocate for values thinking as the new best practice in organizations around the world. His work has transformed philosophical conversations about shared human values into empirical data so we can understand why people do things and how to change that behavior. His mission is to end the use of demographic stereotypes and, quite simply, to change the way we look at the world. I talked with David about Valuegraphics, the Valuegraphics database, and his most recent book, We Are All the Same Age Now. This is a wonderful chance I had to talk with David Allison, and I hope you enjoy it. The things that I have already learned from your book, the things I've already learned from you, are unlike anything else that I've really read anywhere else. And so with that, what I wanted to do is open up with a really general question, and that is, what is Valuegraphics? What is this thing?
Oh, that's the big question. That's the big one. It seems to be constantly evolving, but I'll do my best to answer. First off, thanks for having me over. It's so fun to talk with you. Associations are such an important part of our economy and our world, and I think that they have all kinds of room to become even more important and more vital to the way we all move forward. And I'm going to digress and answer your question after my little digression here. Welcome to Planet David.
I love it.
The number, it kind of helps. It kind of helps me explain the answer to your question. But the most important value across the 500,000 surveys that we've conducted now around the world in a very, very accurate academic way, the most important value that we're all looking for here in North America is to belong. That's what we all want. We want more belonging. We don't want to go to some other yoga studio than the one we normally go to because I don't belong there. I want to belong at work. I want people around me who make me feel like I belong. Belongingness is the thing we're all hunting for. And what can associations provide to us from the perspective of this aspect of our lives that we spend, some of us 16 hours a day with our work, our career, our calling. And an association is a way to weave belongingness into that piece of our life. So I think associations have not only an outward-facing, amazingly important role to play here, but also just helping us all feel like we belong. And that's amazing. So to answer your question, what is Valuegraphics? Valuegraphics is, I like to talk about it as a replacement system for understanding how groups of people behave. Right now, the system we use is called demographic stereotypes. And instead of using demographic stereotypes like boys like blue, girls like pink, millennials like avocado toast, baby boomers drive minivans, instead of using that stuff, which I know we can all laugh about, but we kind of still believe many of those things and use them to make decisions. Instead of that, we have a system now based on this rigorous data that helps us understand for any group of people anywhere in the world, what do they share in common when it comes to their values? In other words, what do they care about? And if you can build your product, your service, your brand, your association membership campaign, your development work, your programming inside an association based on what you know statistically your people care about, you're going to be way better off than trying to guess based on how old they are, or how much money they make, or whether they're male or female, or have 2.3 children and live in a house with a white picket fence. That's really what it boils down to. We now have a database that helps us understand the most important thing to the people that we're trying to talk to, so that you can use that as a way to frame whatever it is you're trying to accomplish.
How did you pull this database together?
Well, that's been a labor of love for the last 4 years. We've gone out using social media channels, which are really nothing more than a way to target messages to very specific groups of people. That's what social media is. You go to Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and they give you the ability to target advertising messages to very, very precise groups of people. So we use that same targeting precision to put surveys in front of all the people that we wanted to talk to so that we could create not just a database of 500,000 survey responses, but a database of 500,000 survey responses that mimics identically the proportions of the real world. So we have the same number of 22-year-olds, the same number of men, the same number of women, the same number of people who are Black and white and live in rural versus urban locations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We have our own miniaturized, I call it like our Lego model of the world. And so when we extract data from this, it's so accurate. It's, I'm going to riff on some stats here, but any statisticians who are listening will enjoy this. It's a plus or minus 3.5% level of accuracy and a 95% level of confidence around that level of accuracy. And it's 500,000 surveys, 152 languages in 180 countries. So this thing has never been built before. And it's this massive database that can precisely identify what people care about for anything, anywhere in the world.
And you found that this, when you look at this, the data that's pulled in, that it's really showing that the way that we have been using demographics in the past is not doing us any favors. So can you talk to me a little bit about that? Because I'm sure at the very beginning of it, you have this suspicion that you know, the value, what you find is going to, you know, show a little bit more of a nuance than just people born between these years, you know, make these types of choices. But can you talk to me a little bit about what you've found since you've done this research?
Yeah, let me just put it in a bit of context for you. You know, I had my own marketing firm, and what we did was specialize particularly in high-end real estate development. So condo towers that someone was spending $400-500 million to build this condo tower. And those were our clients. Those folks would come to us and say, how are we going to get people to buy all these condos? And we did this all over North America and into Europe and all over the place. And so we'd sit down, we'd come up with a idea of who we thought the buyers were, invariably based on demographics and a little bit of psychographics, because that's all we had to work with. And then we'd go and spend millions of dollars to help this person who's putting this tower together figure out how to attract folks. And I call them, just as a funny way to talk about this, I say we've been wasting all of our money on Bob and Sally, because invariably it was Bob and Sally that we were selling to. And we knew that they were, for instance, downsizing baby boomers, moving out of their homes in the suburbs, and they had lost, the kids had all, you know, flown the coop, and they're either pre-retirement or just into retirement, and they were looking to put some cash in their pocket and realize some equity from the family home and blah, 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 et cetera. And we got into like what cars they're driving and what clothing brands. We had this huge profile of who these people were. And we'd make $1 million decisions based on that stuff. And then 2 years later, we'd go to the grand opening of the condo tower, and we'd look around, and there wasn't a single person in the room who matched that description. Nobody showed up that we'd been talking to. Now, there may have been one or two there that were an outlier, but somehow a whole bunch of people found this building and bought everything that had nothing to do with the description we'd put together in advance of who we thought we were talking to and how we were spending all our money. That was the spark of why we started to do this. And since then, now we have the data, we can look back and go, well, we understand what was going on there. What was going on is we were making decisions based on demographic stereotypes.
Well, that's the first 10 minutes with David Allison, my guest, talking about Valuegraphics. If you want to listen to part 2, join the mailing list at associationchat.com or become a Patreon patron, and you'll receive all of the content that I push out and more before everybody else does. We're doing a little test, and we're going to release bits of these podcast interviews, bits at a time. So if you really love this interview with David Allison, let me know on the socials. Tweet me at KiKi L'Italien. Use the hashtag ASSNCHAT, AskChat. Make sure that we know that this is the type of content you love.